What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Crashbar. This is the second Evo-Fusion Junkion. For those of you who are unfamiliar as to what they are, they're essentially Junkions which can parts form yet don't need to parts form for transformation. It's a pretty sick concept. Be sure to check out my previous review of Scraphook, which was such an amazing figure. But here is the sequel, the follow-up to the Junkions for Legacy, and it's another really nicely done looking figure. So as we take a look here at him in the robot mode, look at that. Really cool, you know, has all of those design assets that you would expect with a Junkion, yet completely original. You know, we didn't see this guy in the 1986 movie. We get a wicked looking head sculpt which has a tash, some sick gunmetal metallic silver there for the mouthpiece, and yeah, really like the way this looks. For some strange reason, all of the Junkions so far have had hollow head syndrome. I'm not too sure why, but I just thought it was something worth bearing in mind. And in terms of a back perspective, the upper half barely has any kibble, but the rear half does, of course, have the wheels. But one of them does detach for a weapon, which I'll showcase in just a second. Here for the chest, beautifully painted. I mean, we get this sick kind of mustard gold. Silver, I would say metallic headlights. I'm not too sure if they are supposed to be headlights, but that's at least what they look like to me. And we get the Autobot logo smack bang in center. He's got abs which could rival that of G1 Galvatron, so Galvy definitely needs to get himself down to the gym as he's got some competition ahead of him now. But we get these nice Junkion spikes flaring out of the top of the shoulders. I think the hand sculpt also looks pretty sick with kind of these jagged spiked knuckles, which is just so awesome. And then as we come here to the legs, we kind of get an asymmetrical design due to the way the bike transforms, but really cool looking. I mean, I like these Junkions quite a bit because, at least to me, they remind me of some of the live action movie characters. Very original, distinctive designs, and I just like kind of all of the hyper realistic surface detail they have. Now, in terms of articulation, he does have a really good ball joint here at the head, so you know, you can get it looking up, down, tilt side to side. We also get fully rotatable shoulders. They can also hinge out to the sides, bicep rotation, a single jointed elbow, although you can get way past 90 due to the way he transforms, so that's awesome. We also get some wrist rotation, a complete uncompromised waist joint, which is sick. Really nice hip joints, which can kick up to that far, back to that far, out to the sides. Rotation, I'd say just above the knee. A little past, I'd say, you know, maybe 45 degrees at the knee. It's not quite anywhere near to 90 due to the wheel, but you can take the wheel, arch it back, and there you get a much better range. But of course, it does begin to look slightly strange, and the same can also be said here for this one. And then as we come to the foot, we do get that traditional kind of Generations ankle pivot, although it's much greater on this side than it is sadly on this side. It is very limited, so that's a little bit of a shame, but due to transformation we do get a bit of toe tilt, so I guess it makes up for it in some ways. Now, in terms of accessories, you know, with this being a sequel, I guess, to Scraphook, which was in the first wave, I was expecting him to come with a lot of accessories, and sadly he doesn't. But the accessories he does come with, I guess, are cool. So included are a pair of those kind of orange smokestacks to go along with the rest of the figure's color deco. It looks cool. I mean, we do get some nice detail there for the tip, but they are mainly just for the bike mode. In terms of robot mode, there's not much you can do with them. I guess you can kind of create those nipple blasters that Wreck-Gar also has from the Studio Series line, but what I like to do is just come around here to the back and smack them into some of the MechTech ports, and it gives you the impression that the stacks are kind of flaring up and over the shoulders, so that's pretty sweet. And then in terms of actual firepower, he comes with kind of these metallic, I want to say saddle sacks for the bike mode, but they're supposed to be these kind of double cannons in the robot mode. I mean, they're okay. Again, I wish that maybe he came with an actual blaster than these, but they are blaster vet compatible, so if you know you want to make them look just a little more like blasters, I guess you can smack some effect pieces on there. You can attach these in many different ways. I mean, this guy's got so many ports on him. I mean, you can peg them onto the side of the legs, onto the ones that we have here for the arms. You can actually have him holding them, or what I like to do is use the ports on the outside of the torso, and it kind of gives him these chest rockets, which actually look pretty sick. And due to the way everything kind of lines up, you can actually have him holding them, so it just looks like he's using them when in battle, which I thought was awesome. But my favorite weapon this guy comes with is actually one that's built in, and you probably would never know it existed, and it's that if you come here to this particular wheel, you can detach it. It is very difficult the first couple of times to kind of wriggle this out, but it is removable, and much like the Evolution Prow that we recently took a look at, you can kind of take one of these blades and look at this. It does bang into operation, and we get this nice kind of shuriken Junkion shield, which I really like. You know, I wasn't expecting them to do anything like this. You can peg it onto the side of the arm, you know, much like some of the other Junkions, or you can also peg it, I guess, Evo-Fusion it to one of these cannons and kind of have this mincing chainsaw. You know, perhaps if this guy wants to mince up some Decepticons, he can just whack this out, combine it, and start churning up some of those nasties on the battlefield. Now, if we dare to be stupid with some of the comparisons, here we have Crashbar alongside Scraphook, which was released in the first wave. And I'll say this, I much prefer Scraphook just as an overall figure, but this is a pretty sweet follow-up. And I think as the line progresses and, we get Axle Grease in the third wave and maybe that Voyager one in the fourth wave, this is going to come together to form a pretty cool kind of sub-team of Junkions. But you can see that with Scraphook, he's just much bigger in terms of mass. He is actually a little taller and came with a shed ton of weapons. Like I said, way more accessories with Scraphook when in comparison here to Crashbar. So it is unfortunate again that this guy didn't come with more, but for those of you wondering, you can kind of mismatch the pieces. So with this guy, a few pieces are removable. It is just the arms and the legs. I believe the instructions on the back of the box showcases the head being removed. I haven't found it to do so because the ball joint is just way too tight, and to be honest, even if you were to remove it, I'm not sure what you should get out of that, because unless you have another ball socket for it to go into, it's pretty much useless unless you just want a decapitated Crashbar. But just to showcase how a few of the components look, you can take the arms here from Scraphook and wedge them in. I will say the tolerances are just a little off, at least on my copy. I mean, as you can see, that is held in there very loosely, but the legs do stay together just a little better. So we can smack these Scraphook legs in, which I guess would create for a pretty funky look. And the same can also be said here for Scraphook. Here's a Crashbar arm. Let's see if we can smack it into his port. So yeah, surprisingly, this actually fits in there a lot better than how his arm fit onto Crashbar. And then here's a leg, so we can smack that in there. So, you can create some of these kind of wonky looking hybrid pirate looking things. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had, and especially if you have some of the fossilizers from Kingdom, then yeah, you can get some pretty funky combos. I do wonder though whether or not, once we do get to wave 4 and 5, if potentially we're going to be able to create some kind of Junkion combiner. It does make the mind wonder. For a few other comparisons, we have Crashbar alongside the Wave 2 Deluxe class Prowl, Wave 1 Armada Hotshot, and I know you guys are all going to be wondering when the next Armada review is coming to the channel, and all I can say is that very shortly. Definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button, as that review is going to be an absolute banger. Here he is alongside the core class Iguanus, Voyager class Studio Series Wreckgar. So yeah, the scale is kind of off, unfortunately, because they are supposed to transform into bikes, but I really do think that this guy is supposed to scale with his own kind, other Evo-Fusion Junkions. But to be fair, considering how many Junkions there were in the 86 movie, who's to say that there weren't much smaller bike Junkions also roaming around? And as with almost every generation's review, we're rounding the comparisons off with the Earthrise Optimus Prime, the GOAT of Optimus Prime figures I think we've seen in the past couple of years. Now, turning to transformation, you're basically going to want to make Crashbar as naked as you possibly can, so just remove all of the accessories. Then we're going to come here to the head, take it and just dip the neck section all the way down into that hollow cavity. We can then now come here to the hands, rotate them so that the front is now facing the back, and utilize the elbow joints because these are just going to kind of holster over the top of some of these Junkion shoulder spikes. Once you've done that, we can then disengage the shoulder joints, bring these here all the way around, and they'll actually lock into a few places. So this piece will slide into that hollow gap, and then this kind of lip will connect over the top of this piece. So just snap that section in there. Do the exact same here for the opposite side. So just snap that section in also. What we'll now want to do is kind of flip him upwards. Definitely quite a bizarre transformation the first couple of times you do it, but then we're going to want to rotate here at the waist and ensure that this leg, which has the flame deco, is kind of on the side of the arms, because this is the positioning that you're going to want to need for the transformation. You'll then want to rotate here at the thigh, take the handlebars, fold these sections here out, which will allow us to take this whole compartment and pull it forwards. We can then take the wheel, extend this all the way out, which will reveal a massive hollow cavity, because we're actually going to do quite a difficult step, and that's disengage the knee joint away from the shin. Now, when I did this the first couple of times, 9 times out of 10, this would actually detach. So, just apply a bit of pressure here, kind of grip a hold of this so the leg doesn't self-combust, and then you should be able to shift and collapse that. And there are these 2 tiny little kind of nubs that are just going to snap into that piece. Now what you're going to want to do is take these tabs, and they'll slide into some little hollow slots in the middle, smack bang in center of the arm joints. So snap that one in, and do the same here for this side. We can then take the wheel and just angle that down. Come here to this one, again rotate at the thigh. We can then take the wheel, extend this here forwards, and much like the opposite leg, you're going to want to kind of grip this piece just so the leg don't pop off, and then compress all of that in upon itself. So we should at the moment be left with something along the lines of this, and now is where you're going to want to bring in some of the accessories, and these are really where these saddle sacks are super helpful because they basically allow us to line all of this up properly and just keep things a lot more solidified. So you're going to want to smack that into that MechTech port, and then that big tab is going to slide into this port. So snap that in there and do the exact same for the opposite side. So just slide that in, take this section, arch it backwards just a little bit, and then for some finishing touches, we're going to want to take these smokestacks and basically just snap them into the hands, and there is a tiny little tab that's going to slide into this notch. So just snap that in there and do the exact same for the opposite side. And there we have Crashbar fully transformed up into his pretty sick looking bike mode. You know, much like Scraphook, really does follow this kind of Mad Max aesthetic, and I'm absolutely all here for it. I mean, as we take a look at the front of it, look at all of those jagged Junkion spikes. You know, it would have been cool had they painted the front ones, but for the most part, that is really sweet. We even get the handlebars and kind of the side view mirrors, which look awesome. I love the paint details we have of this front piece too, you know, kind of Michael Bay Optimus Prime with the flames that go over the top here of this nice metallic gold. You know, any chance I get, I'm always going to throw something about the Bay movies into these reviews, but from a side perspective, I think the bike is actually really good looking. You know, there's not many ugly pieces that are clearly showing out. I like how the stacks actually clip in here, you know, that looks cool, and these kind of saddle sacks have a much better role in the bike mode than they did into the bot mode. And still, you know, it retains all of the kind of MechTech ports. We actually get some additional ones made out of the back of the foot here, so if you wanted to have this guy turbocharging through the battlefield, then you absolutely could. So yeah, I think it's pretty sweet how they kind of created the seat of the bike out of his foot, you know, that's pretty cool. And then this is what this guy looks like from an underside, so I guess he's kind of sniffing the ground as he's rolling out into battle against the Decepticons. But yeah, really sweet looking figure. Now in terms of articulation, this whole section can rotate left to right, which is pretty sweet, especially, you know, if you're into your photography like me, and all of the wheels, as you would expect, do roll. And the way the kind of ports line up with these saddle sacks, it allows for just enough clearance so that it doesn't scrape any of that nice detailing that we had on the chest piece. So really cool looking figure. Now, as we dare to be stupid again, here we have some comparisons. So this is the Legacy Evolution Scraphook, and for those of you wondering how I've managed to get this guy balanced, I basically just took one of these stacks and slid it down. It basically acts as his kickstand. But in terms of a scale, you know, for a deluxe class, pretty sweet, but in terms of real life, you know, way off. A bike should nowhere near be as big as this massive pickup truck. But I really like the colours on these guys. Like I said, you know, once we get a collective group of these Junkions, it's just going to be so sweet to mix and match the pieces. And be sure to stay tuned for just a second, because I'm going to show you guys some really cool configurations. But continuing with the size comparisons, here we have him alongside his bike wavemate, that being again the animated universe prow. So you can just see how these two roughly pair next to each other, basically the same scale, but in my opinion this has a much better bike mode because it doesn't have nowhere near as many ugly gaps and kind of ugly robot mode pieces visible as this had. So yeah, it's a shame this bike mode doesn't really stack up alongside Crashbar. And just as I had her transformed in the bike mode, here is the Prime Universe RC. So again, pretty decent size for a deluxe class. And as you guys I'm sure would expect, here is that Studio Series Voyager Wreck-Gar, which again is way out of scale alongside Crashbar, but this is what they look like from a side perspective. Now, as we talk Evo-Fusion and just a few of the many ways I would imagine that I've found you can combine these two, there's quite a lot that you can do with them. So to kickstart things off, firstly, what I want to showcase is kind of a sidecar that you can create out of Scraphook. So we basically just take the front portion here of the truck mode, attach it, and then split what are, of course, the bot mode legs, and they perfectly line up with these massive tabs that we have on the side. And bang, there is your sidecar. And the way the wheels are kind of elevated off the ground, it is pretty much a spot-on match to Crashbar. So yeah, I thought that was pretty sweet. You know, even if you whack this engine piece off, I imagine you could maybe smack in a headmaster to make it look like he's actually kind of driving in this sidecar, so that's cool. And you know, if you wanted some double sidecar action, you can also smack this side on. So already a lot of things you can do, but one of my personal favorite configurations is that if you just so happen to pick up two Crashbar, you can combine them to create kind of this dual wield thing, which can combine here with Scraphook. So I'm going to show you exactly that right now. So what you're going to want to do is just remove the accessories. We can then detach this front portion, and just hinge this out. Now, I personally would recommend extending the knee joint until it clicks into place, you know, much like you would if you were going to transform him. And here is another one of the same leg. Now, I don't know if this was intentional, but I think it was. Basically, on either side, there is a tab and a peg, which just so happens to fit perfectly with the opposite side. So let's combine these two and see what we're left with. So we can just snap them in. As you can see, they perfectly combine, and then we can basically just attach this here to the front of Scraphook and kind of create that weird looking fusion that we saw on the Legacy Evolution poster. So that is just so freaking cool, and it continues. I'll show you in just a second some of the other ones you can do, but yeah, that is so awesome. And much like the kind of sidecar configuration, the wheels are perfectly elevated so that the rear wheels of Scraphook can still roll on the ground. So that's really sweet. Now what you're going to want to do is take the rear portion of Scraphook and just attach it. It's going to be a little difficult as we have all of these additional kind of accessories on the back, but basically just unhook all of this. And the rear tires, so these pieces here, also do combine. So you're going to want to remove these saddle sacks and set them off to the sides, or you know, maybe you can also chuck them into the Fusion. We still have quite a few kind of MechTech ports visible, but again, elevate that knee joint peg on both sides, and much like the front portion, there are these kind of opposite tabs which perfectly lock into one another, which is just so sweet. So lock it in there at the rear and then lock it here in at the front, and what you can do is make sure that's snapped in and they too also perfectly line up. So a very kind of Mad Max-esque looking fusion going on, and I'm going to whack on some of the smokestacks in just a second. I'm sure you guys all saw this fusion in some of the opening shots, but yeah, I really like the kind of versatility these Junkions have, and this is only a few of the combinations that I've come up with. I'm pretty certain you guys will come up with much crazier ones, and hey, maybe I'll do a whole separate video on it, but yeah, really sweet. Cannot wait for axle grease. Now, when it comes to reverse transformation, again, completely get rid of all of those additional accessories. We're going to come here to the rear of the bike and just gently detach this. Now, like I said previously, you don't want to yank this off because you will literally yank the entire leg off. So just gently wriggle this section back and then just click it into place just like that. We can then lift this section up, take the wheel, scoot this piece back and then hinge the toe forwards. Come here to this section and do the same, although this time you're going to want to gently detach those tabs from those slots and just slowly pull this out and click it into place, rotate here at the thigh. Now what you're going to want to do is take what will become the front toe, push this section here forwards, and then take the handlebars and collapse them. It will basically solidify this so that the toe doesn't flip up, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we can just take the tire and compress it into that hollow cavity. Now, much like the Evolution Prow, you'll then want to rotate here at the waist and then just take these shoulder joints, bring these here all the way around, bring the elbows down, rotate at the wrists on both sides, and then for some finishing touches, take this tiny little lip and pull his head up, and you know, you can armor him up with all of the accessories. But there is Crashbar back in his robot mode. And so, some final thoughts for the Legacy Evolution Crashbar. Overall, it's a very nice follow-up to Scraphook. Whilst not being as great as that figure, especially in the accessory department, I still really love the unique original take that they appear to be taking with some of these Junkion designs. This is another great entry. This guy looks wicked, you know, truly does fit in with that whole Junkion aesthetic. I think the articulation for the most part is pretty cool. Love the versatility and kind of the combination gimmick that all of these Junkions are going to have. I mean, you guys saw how much fun I was having just ripping pieces off here, there, and everywhere in both robot and vehicle mode, and all of the different configurations that you can come up with. You know, like I said, I think once we get axle grease and a few other Junkions, the combinations are going to be endless. So yeah, it's a really cool figure. The only area which I wish maybe they'd improve on would be accessories for this guy, just because Scraphook came with so many. You know, we were kind of spoiled. It is a shame to see basically 4, maybe pushing it 5 accessories with this one. But I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you guys think of the latest Junkion entry to grace Legacy, and will you be picking up 1 or 2 of these guys to come up with some of those cool configurations? Let me know down below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.